Hi, I'm Mike Scramstead of cdocs.com and welcome to the tip of the day. In this video, I'd like to talk about the trim tool when doing implant restorations. Now, in the newer software versions, the trim tool tends to happen automatically, but just because it happens automatically doesn't mean that it is always correct. We should always understand what these tools do and how they affect the process of the entire restoration. So when you look at this restoration here, what we used to do many years ago, like 10 years ago, is when we had to trim, we would just simply make a circular trim around where the implant was in the restoration. Now this was fine, but what would end up happening is very often when we're doing posterior implant restorations, we don't use the gingival mask when getting our base line. So if we're using more of a stock base line, what you'll notice is the mesial distal emergence tends to follow the trim tool, okay? So if we trim in a little circle like that, that doesn't really do us much good. We get a very narrow mesial distal emergence profile where we'd much rather have it a little bit wider. Now you could very easily go in there and try to edit that line and draw that line a little bit wider, but it's much easier to trim properly. Let the trim tool control the mesial distal emergence profile of your base line. So if I go back to the trim step, and instead of making that little circle around where the implant restoration is, if I make one distal cut exactly where I want that distal emergence profile to come out of the gums, and one to the mesial, I want you to see what happens when I go to the base line. Okay, so I'm controlling the mesial distal emergence profile based on where I trim the restoration in the trim step. So if I go to the next step, and I go to the baseline, what you're going to have to do when you go to the baseline is you're actually going to have to reset the baseline to the new trim. And when I do that, you'll notice it's much more ideal. So the only thing you really need to do to set this up ideal is to trim your restoration properly. If you do that, the mesial distal emergence profile will be in the right place, and you're going to minimize the chances of having food traps or other issues with your implant restorations. So pay attention to these small tools, even the trim tool. Everything makes a difference, and it will greatly benefit you if you do it properly. So I hope you enjoyed this tip, and we'll see you next time. Thank you. For more information on this topic and many others, please visit us at cdocs.com. Thank you.